Hi Arrows, I'm Kashan and you are watching The Book Archer. So I'm coming at you guys today with my monthly recommendations video. This is a Goodreads group started by Katrina and Kayla over at Between the Chapters and Kayla Rain, I believe. Don't quote me, but I will leave a link down to the Goodreads group below, and I will leave a link down to their channels. We basically give book recommendations every month based on whatever the topic of the month is. And this month the topic was fantasy. My favorite genre, my favorite thing to talk about, my favorite type of book to talk about. So yeah, I'm gonna work on reading some not so popular fantasy series this year. If y'all post any fantasy recommendations videos, leave them down in the comment bar. I'm gonna go ahead and get started with the most popular series. I'm gonna talk about those two first. Of course, the first one being the GOAT of all fantasy series, and that for me is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling, or just the whole Harry Potter series. I grew up on this. I love this. Do I even need to say anything? It's Harry Potter. But if you haven't started it, you do want to go ahead and do that. Sasha at A Book Utopia and Naya Reads and Smiles. Both of those booktubers started this series for the first time last year, and I had so much fun watching their videos talking about how much they loved it, how much they didn't know they were going to be connected to it. Like, I just love hearing about people's experiences reading Harry Potter for the first time. So if you haven't picked this one up, you definitely want to. The next series that I'm going to mention is my favorite fantasy series of all time. Harry Potter's my favorite series of all time in general, but this is my favorite fantasy series, and it's still being produced. And that is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. If you have been subscribed to my channel for a long time, then you know that I absolutely love this series. It's just so good. The main thing about it is it gets better and better with each book. Once you get deeper into the series, the second book, and especially the third and fourth book, it grows into something. I absolutely love this series. It has everything that you want in fantasy. A large cast of characters. There's magic, there's plot twists and turns, there's great action scenes, great friendships, great betrayals. It makes you laugh, it makes you cry. It has everything. Read it if you haven't. Read it. The next books that I'm going to mention are books that are either mildly popular or books that are not as popular on BookTube, but I have read and loved all of these, so I definitely felt like they were worth mentioning. The first one being Snow Like Ashes by Sara Raasch. I really love this book when I read it at the beginning of 2014. This is a fantasy book that follows the main character who, it's like her and a few other refugees from her kingdom of winter. They live in a world where each kingdom is a different season. So you have one, kingdom where it's that season all year round. She is from the kingdom of winter. Spring has taken over their kingdom for like the last 20 years or so, and they're trying to fight to get their kingdom back. It is a really good fast-paced story. It's full of action. It has a lot of royalty in it, rebellion, all those type of things. It packs a punch. There's a lot that happens for this to be the first book. I definitely feel like this story was very well developed, and the world building is absolutely amazing. It's so much more than just like winter, spring, summer, fall. When you read it, you will get to see that. There's great visualization, and I love the way that Sara Raasch wrote this. The next book that I want to recommend is The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. The main premise of the first book is Leah is a princess who has been put into an arranged marriage, and she doesn't want to get married. Surprise, surprise. She runs away, and the kingdom that, she was supposed to be marrying to sent an assassin after her to kill her. The prince goes after her, but she doesn't know who's who. They both show up where she is, and she doesn't know who's who. And we don't know who's who either. So we're trying to figure it out while the story is happening. I absolutely love the journey that Leah goes on in this story. You get so connected to the events that happen. I read this book over a year ago, and I still remember very vividly a lot of the details. And that doesn't always happen with books. I think the pacing of this book was really good. It wasn't like too fast-paced, action packed. It didn't drag. It was like a nice slow burn, but you were always invested. Pick this up if you haven't yet. Next book I want to mention is Fallen Kingdoms by Morgan Rhodes. This is a great book to read if you are new to fantasy, but this isn't like your first fantasy read. It kind of reminds me of how Shakespearean plays go. There's a lot of different perspectives. There's a lot of betrayal and shocking things that happen, but I don't feel like it's hard to follow. A lot of books that have different perspectives and are fantasies can be a commitment to dive into, but I don't feel like that with Fallen Kingdoms. This is going to be a 6-book series. The first 4 books are already out and I have read the first 3, and they do get better and better with each book. It's definitely not predictable. And if you like to be kept on your toes, then pick up Fallen Kingdoms. So next, I would like to recommend the Kanin Chronicles by Amanda Hocking, Frostfire, Ice Kiss, and Crystal Kingdom. These are great fantasy books to read if you want the full-on fantasy feel, but you don't want anything too high fantasy that you can't really keep up with. This still definitely has its own world, but there are more so different troll tribes and just different elements but they're easy to follow, if that makes sense. There's like ogres and trolls and things like that, and people who have magical abilities or aquatic abilities. So I find this to be a very unique series, but an easy one to follow. So this is a good one for new fantasy readers as well. Those are the books that I would like to recommend for you fantasy readers. If y'all have any suggestions below, then leave those for me. I'm always looking for new fantasy series. And if you haven't started the fantasy genre, or it's kind of scary to you, give it a whirl. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at ThebookArcher, and I will see y'all in my next video. Bye!